Thank you so much for inviting me here. I was really happy to work with many of you on this report. It was really a collaborative effort of Boston Global Forum, although nobody takes responsibility for some of the views that I'll put out here but me, unless you speak up. First of all, I'm very, very happy to be back here at Harvard. I did my PhD here. I remember this room fondly as a graduate student with Professor Martin Feldstein having his economics of national security seminars, which we did here. And this is all about economics. Cybersecurity is all about economics. It's all about national security. I'm going to cover 6 major issues today. Really what I'm doing is I took what I consider the most controversial or most interesting points out of our paper, and I'm going to cover those in the talk. For other stuff in the paper, you can read the paper. As we heard from a previous speaker, cybersecurity realm is an offense-dominant realm. Offense has the advantage in cybersecurity. Also going to cover encryption, issues of encryption, moral hazard in cybersecurity insurance, cryptocurrencies, the interchangeability of white hat skills and black hat skills, or hacking skills and what we would call sort of cyber defense skills for professionals. And then finally, ethical issues that relate to cybersecurity and the need to have a pure and clean, a more of a pure, clean approach to ethics than we have right now in the cybersecurity realm. I would argue that cybersecurity is offense dominant in terms of military technology or in terms of security technology in general. We heard that from a previous speaker. You have in an internet system or a computer system, you have hundreds, millions, billions of nodes that can be attacked by a black hat hacker. However, so your defensive forces need to be spread all over all of those nodes in a network. And between each node, there's 2 edges. There's information going from node A to node B, and there's information going from node B to node A. Then you square that, or you cube it if you include information that can go from node A to node A, and you get a remarkable diffusion of your defensive forces across your network, whereas the hacker, or black hat, can attack a single node and get into your network. So it's an offense-dominant situation. Slide. When dealing with the offense-dominant situation, offense is really the best defense. So we need to, rather than focus, as we have, on sort of a patchwork defensive approach to cybersecurity, we need to completely shift gears. We can keep that going, but really the main impetus, I would argue, of attack, the main avenue of attack on this issue needs to be offensive operations against black hat hackers and illegitimate governments that are attacking our systems. That can include economic sanctions, as Angela Merkel had talked about. That can include heavy, much stronger surveillance, including backdoors to encrypted devices. Now what we see is Google and Apple and all of the other big device makers out there are building encryption into their systems without backdoors as the norm. That means that every time you and I make a lunch date, which nobody cares about, that's encrypted. My phone's encrypted. So when I make a lunch date with Bill Ottman, that's an encrypted piece of information that nobody cares about. But that piece of information multiplied by billions is the haystack in which the criminals, the terrorists, the illegitimate governments are hiding. We need legitimate governments to have backdoors to that information in order to find, fix, and finish the criminals, terrorists, and illegitimate government use of the internet. Right now, the cybersecurity insurance industry is of the order of $3 billion or something like that. It's pretty small. Whereas the losses annually are in the hundreds of billions of dollars. That means that very little of the cybersecurity risk is actually being covered. So individuals, companies are getting hit with these massive costs, especially when you consider the drops in market capitalization of companies after they're hit by a cyber attack, which can reach into the billions of dollars. when you consider that, the cost that our society is paying for cybersecurity is so massive that we're going to see more and more of a demand for government subsidization of cybersecurity insurance. However, as with FEMA's subsidization of disaster insurance such as hurricanes, as with the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, which subsidizes terrorism insurance, we see a real moral hazard develop where the individuals and companies are incentivized to build their houses in places that are very insecure. We've got major corporations now in the most insecure cities in the world: New York City, DC, Paris, London, right? Our whole financial system is in London and New York, which are completely insecure to terrorist attacks. Yet government is subsidizing that, and government will subsidize cybersecurity insurance, leading to the same kinds of risks being taken. Slide. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is the biggest of them by far, are on the rise. This graph is the value of Bitcoin over time. And it's hard to see it, but it stretches back to I forget what year, but quite a while ago. In 2011 or 12, you see a big spike. Each Bitcoin is worth $1,000 or more. And now the value of Bitcoin is around $400. Now, what does Bitcoin use? What makes Bitcoin different than anything else? Well, one, it's totally anonymous, which is great for terrorists and criminals. Two, it's easy to transfer across borders without any government regulation. So it's perfect for criminals and terrorists. And not only is it perfect for criminals and terrorists, but to make a Bitcoin actually requires quite a bit of computing power and computer engineers to mine the Bitcoin, to solve the mathematical problems required to get that Bitcoin. Now let's compare a Bitcoin and all the work that it takes to get one to $400. $400, you just print $400 bills. It's easy. The government does that. And who benefits when the government prints that money? If it's a legitimate government, the citizens of that legitimate government. Who benefits from the cryptocurrency that's made? No one really, because the person who mined that Bitcoin had to pay market rates for computers and computer engineers to get it out of the system. So there's no real benefit. It's a loss to society, and it's used heavily by terrorists and criminals. I would argue we should make these cryptocurrencies illegal. Next slide. The approach, the defensive approach to cybersecurity is let's increase our cybersecurity budget so that we can hire more cybersecurity specialists. Well, the skills that you need to be a good cybersecurity specialist are exactly the same skills you need to be a hacker. So if we increase our hacking skills out there as a defensive measure, we're also increasing the skill set in the system that's required to attack the system. Now, we know from our speakers and the graph previously that cybersecurity is offense dominant. That means that if we train 10 hackers or 10 white hats, and one of them decides to become a hacker, and 9 of them decide to become legitimate cybersecurity specialists, probably the net effect of security in the system is negative, because that one hacker can do more damage than all 9 of those white hats trying to protect the system. Slide. Finally, on the pure and clean ethics part of the conference, ultimately we will not address this issue without both a strong system of more offensive measures against the hackers, whether that be surveillance, taking them out with drones as we did in Syria, using economic sanctions. We need to use strong offensive measures against the hackers, but also the best defense, in addition to the offense, on this issue is encouraging a more ethical approach among our young, among any vulnerable populations to this type of pursuit, hacking, And that's going to be a very deep process of education, which is why we're here in part at Harvard. So thank you very much. It's an honor to speak to you.